Hello and welcome, it's Pete here again, and today we're going to be talking about shaker paints, but not just any shaker paints, a square shaker paints. I'm so excited about the versatility of this product. The amount of things you can do is staggering. We're going to take a deep dive into that today, but we're going to make a smashing card using these very shaker paints. Hope you're looking forward to it. I am too. Let's get into it. Okay, as I said, today is all about the make, but if you want to know a bit more depth about these shaker paints, no pun intended, then please follow this link somewhere up there. And that will take you to some wonderful videos explaining all about this great new technology. Now, we looked at the shaker paints in the packaging. This is how they come out. You'll see we've used some of our wonderful Sizzix beads and sequins in there. Those are the 4 sizes. Now, also you'll notice there are framelits that go with them. I'll be talking about those in a little while. But let's get into making, because today I'm going to be using this lovely set which accompanies the medium square. We do have sets which accompany all of our squares, so that is the set which accompanies the small, and this is the set which accompanies the large. Now, you can use them independently of these, or you can use them independently of any dies. You can choose your own dies, and we'll show some examples of that later on. So, let's get into some die cutting. I'm going to use that Hello one today, and I'm just going to roll back my media mat and bring in my Big Shot Foldaway machine, because I'm going to do some cutting, and I'm going to cut some of the parts. Now, I've got this lovely Hello die, which is a wonderful framing device, and I'm going to pop that onto my cutting plate. So I'm using the full platform with the wafer thin die adapter and the 2 cutting plates. There we are. So that one pops through. Lovely, crisp, clean cut, which we are used to by now with our Sizzix dies. So that's in the mirror silver, and I'll just take my tweezers, because for some unknown reason I've forgotten my die pick. But there we have it. And there we are. Really clean, even, crisp cut from that die. So we'll put that to one side, because I also want to cut a photograph, and this is a photograph of my daughter Poppy. So what I want to do is reach into this little bag here. This is where I keep my framelits. Now, this is the set of framelits which accompany the square shaker paints, which can be bought separately, and this is how they come out. So you'll see that there's an inside and a frame for each size of those squares, and I'm going to choose the medium one, because this one is actually going to frame the photograph, and what that will allow me to do is to place this photograph inside the shaker paint. So we'll run that through. And there we have it. There's my photo ready to go. So I'll just pop that to one side as well, along with the die. And let's take my machine out for a second, because I want to bring in some stamps, because obviously that set, the set that I showed earlier, not only does it contain the dies, but it also contains these lovely stamps. There's flowers, there's hearts, there's a sentiment, and I pre-stamped some of these flowers onto a piece of card. So let me take that card out for you, and there we have. Those are the 3 different flower stamps, just stamped in black there. And I'm going to use my media mat now, because I want to apply some colour to these. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take these individual, now these distressings, I'm using worn lipstick and picked raspberry, and all I'm doing, you can see on my media mat, I'm just pressing them like that onto the mat, so that transfers the pigment for me to use, and I can use this as a watercolour. And I'm using my mini mister to apply just a little bit of water, just in between the 2, like that. And then I'll take my brush, which And this media mat, it does have a handy channel there to put your brushes in as well. So let's just apply some color. We'll take this large set and start off relatively light, not much pigment on there. And I'm just coming in and I'm applying it direct. You can apply clean water to these first, should you choose, which a lot of watercolorists like to do, but I'm just going to apply it direct like this, and it's imperfect. If you're not a watercolor artist, if you don't feel that you have the craft skills, I mean, it couldn't be simpler. It couldn't be simpler. Using this kind of technique and methodology is the simplest way to get really great effects without being Leonardo da Vinci. So I'm going to pick up some of the picked raspberry, which is a different tone and again slightly darker, and I'm just going to dot that in there like so. Now, if I want to clean up my brush, for example, let's take another one of these little wallets. I can actually dip that straight in the water and with a paper towel just clean that off. So that's ready to use, and I can come in with the green and I can start to apply this very gently, very delicately to those lovely leaves there. So there we are, we're just getting in there that lovely bright twisted citron color there. So while that's still wet, I'll pick up and I'll use this. I haven't washed my brush, you'll notice. I'll just bring in some of this slightly darker color, which is pine needles, and just let that blot its way in. So we've got the two tones going on there, so that gives us a couple of lovely greens. I can mix up my flowers, I could use different colors, I could use the same color, doesn't really matter. So I'll wash up my brush. Just put that to one side. Now the great thing about using a media mat like this is it's a silicone, so it comes up completely clean. Look at how simple this is. Wow, it just wipes straight away. And that's ready to use again. So whether you're using distress inks, watercolor paints, whether you're using your acrylics, you're going to get these same results. Perfect cleanup and ready to go. Now, that's the one I just did. Here's one that I made earlier. And you'll notice that we have framelits which accompany these different flowers. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to place that framelit in place, thus. So that's ready to cut. But of course, once I pick this up, it slides off. Or if you put it on the machine and you put your plates together, it might slip out of register. That's the worst thing that could happen after you've done all this work. So, that being said, I'm going to choose some of my Sizzix Makers tape. Fantastic product. If you haven't seen this before, you really should get some of this tape. And look, I just twisted it so the roll's ready to go again. And I'll place it down. Now, what is so great about this Maker's tape is that you can place it over the die, like so. It's not going to slip out of register. It's not going to lift the cardstock, because sometimes when you get, the people use washi tape for this, but some washi tape is too tacky. So it lifts the surface of the card. That's the last thing we want. With the Maker's tape, it's perfect. It just pulls away every time. It leaves no residue. Ah, wonderful, wonderful product. So I'm going to place that onto my cutting plate. I'll take my other cutting plate and then run these both through the machine. And once all our cutting's done, it's going to be time to look at our shaker paints. But there is one more thing I want to do before we put the shaker paints together. And let's peel off. See what I mean about this tape? Wow, it just comes away. Now you could use that again. You could put that maybe on the side of your machine or wherever you keep such things, and it's ready to use again. And there are my three gorgeous, gorgeous flowers. So I'll pop that to one side, and we'll have these over here. Now, I could use a colourful background for these as well, but what I've gone for is monochromatic. And I've used a grey ink. You'll see, so I've used the same flowers, I've used a light grey ink. That's going to be my background, which is then going to sit on top of this white base card. But there is one more thing I want to do with this. And I'm going to take my iced spruce distress ink. This is a lovely shade of grey. You could also, if you preferred, use something like, oh my word, I've forgotten the name of the ink. It's one of my favourites. It'll come to me. It'll come to me. It's fine. So there we are. We're just going around the edges. So we're not going too far into there. We're getting a lovely smooth blend, and you can see the ink there appearing on your mat, so you can draw that in. So we start on the outside, we're coming in. That is the way to get a really nice, gradual, subtle blend. And that's why I'm using pumice stone was the name of the ink. Pumice stone. I use it all the time, can't believe it. Anyway, you could use pumice stone as well, give you similar results. Okay, so that's my background. And we'll see now when that goes. Isn't that wonderful? What a lovely difference, and what a lovely smooth transition from the edge. So the center is completely white as well. Now, let's take away my distress ink, bring out my spritzer, and again, a bit of water on there. So there we are. Comes straight off, as I said, just a plain piece of plain old kitchen paper. That's all you need, really, no specialist equipment. So let's have a look at my shaker pen, because that is the star of the show, of course. I'm going to take one of these out of here, and we'll talk about how they go together. We'll talk about the various components and what makes these so special and unique. Well, there we are. This is the medium shaker pen. So I've got the large and the small there. It comes in two parts. That is an acrylic base, so that's really strong. So that's not going to flex. It's not going to, if it twists, then it could pop free. All your shaky bits will come out of that, but we don't want that to happen. So you'll notice also it has this red border around it. That is the backing for very strong adhesive tape. So that's how it goes together. So there's no fiddling about with tape. The top of the shaker pane, this has protective film on it, so it keeps it from scratching, and it's also it's heat resistant. So if you want to heat emboss, if you want to stamp and heat emboss on this, you can do that as well. It's also static resistant, so whatever you put in there, your shaky bits, they're not going to stick to the front. Now, remember that photograph which I cut earlier. There it is. It's ready to go. That just slots inside there. And you can use tape, whatever you want. You can use some glue. I'll use some of my lovely tacky glue here. Like that. Pop that on there. And I can use my fingertip to make sure I've got a really thin film which sits all over there. If you want to use your tape roller, double-sided tape, whatever you have, that's entirely up to you. You can even use the wonderful adhesive sheets, which would do a similar job. So let's pop the photo in there. There's Poppy staring back at us. Now, shaky bits. This is a tube of sequencing beads. This happens to be the gold ones. You'll see there are 5 different kinds in there. You can put them, you can use them individually or mix them together. Sometimes I like to do that. I like to mix them all together. I'm going to be using silver today though. There are all the colors of the rainbow. We have a color for every one of our core color range. So let's choose, oh, you know what? Here's a little star. So we'll get some little stars going on in there. Not too many. There we are. Also some beads, because these beads, they give it a lovely rattle. And we all love interactive cards. We all love shaky bits, and these are no exception. You know, when you receive one of these, not only can you look at what a wonderful card it is, but it's so much fun. You can pick it up, you can shake it. It's kids of all ages love these kind of cards. So let's pop those in there. And then remember that backing, that red backing, that will expose the adhesive, at which point I'm going to place my the other pane, which is sized perfectly to fit over the top of that. But first I have to remove this protective film. That's quite important. There we have it. Funny story, when I was testing these, I stamped on them and I started using my heat tool. I thought, these are awful, it's just not working at all. But I forgot to take the protective film off. Not very clever. Learn from my mistakes, folks. There we are, we'll slot that in place, and that's it. There's your shaker paint. That's ready to go. That's all there is to it. And you can probably see from this the versatility. You don't have to have a photo in there. You can have any kind of background in there. You know, you can put it behind the card, inside the card, on top of the card. It's entirely up to you. I'll show you some examples of that in a little while. Oh, actually, let's do it now. Let's do it now, because here is the card with a background. So you can see we just used some lovely opulent, and this is using the rose gold. This is a card without a background, or you could put a photo in there. It's entirely up to you. And then the smallest of the three. This one actually mounts, because of that glue, it mounts inside the card. So you can cut an aperture with one of your square dies and create something like that. So there's just three ways of using that right there. Now, here's my background. I want to mount that on there, and I want to do it at a funky angle as well. So we'll peel the backing again. There's some more backing there. Let's pop that in place. So there we are. Now, there was one other thing. I've actually added my own double-sided tape to this. You can use, again, you can use glue, you can use your tape runner, you can use whatever your preferred method of adhesion is. But I'm just going to peel the backing away. These are great tweezers, by the way. And sometimes I use them for picking up the gems, picking up the beads, picking up die cuts, but I also use them for peeling the backing of double-sided tape and as a die pick. When I haven't got my die pick to hand, like today, because I forgot it, I can pop the dies out. Great, great tweezers. And these are Sizzix tweezers, of course. Now, let's pop this on. So we're going to do this sideways rather than top to bottom. So that fits right over the top of that lovely shaker pane like so. So this is where we're actually at the moment. But of course, we want to add a splash of color. So I'm going to take some of my foam tape. The great thing about foam tape is that, you know, it's not, you can have it as a strip and you can use it as a strip. Or you can cut off little individual pieces like this and apply it to your smaller die cuts. So you're getting the best of both worlds there. Because if you get like the little squares that we have and we wanted to apply something big like this card front onto the base, you'd have to use about 6 or 7 of them. You'd have to peel all the backing off, stick it down. It's not fun. Life's too short. So again, I'm going to use my tweezers to remove that backing. And we're going to come in something like that at the top there. Now, there's another thing, just a note. This is the sentiment die which comes with the lovely die set, which we looked at the beginning. So this time I have put a couple of smaller pieces, and I'm going to have that just down there, coming off the side, before applying my other 2 flowers. Now, I have no idea where I'm going with this today. I really don't. And that's part of the fun of paper crafting, card making, call it what you will. It's kind of a joy, you know, cutting out all the elements and then putting them down and seeing what works, what doesn't. I've got a fair idea where I want to go, but, you know, this is kind of like crafting without a net. So we'll pop this one here, so that's just coming over the sentiment, thus, and then finally we'll take the other pink flower, and I think we'll have it somewhere around there. Now we'll cut another piece off, peel the backing, And that is pretty much it. But of course, it's not ready because this whole thing, as lovely as it is at this point, when you put it on a lovely, clean, crisp card background, that's when it really starts to pop. And I am going to use some dimension. Now, remember what I said about using a long strip of this. Imagine, for this, I would say I'd probably use about 8 of those small squares, but I've got 2 strips. There's going to be lots of contact with the card, so we won't have any issues of it all falling apart or sending a card to somebody, they open the envelope and it's in kit form. It's all going to be there. Now, let's take a look. This is it. I'm going to put it again at a slight angle. So you'll see that everything, we've gone away from the absolute horizontal and vertical. And that is it. Didn't take long, but lots of fun. And that, the shaky bit, that the engagement, that, you know, so you're sending fun in an envelope, and when they receive this at the other end, oh my goodness, you know, especially to a child, or even my wife's grandparents, who are both 93, I used this set to make an anniversary card. They just had their 70th wedding anniversary, so like I said, kids of all ages. So there you go. Now, that's the one we made today. Let's take a look at some other samples using that same set. So this one, variation on the theme. This time the background, we've created a background using the stamps which come with the set. And then there's no shaky bits in this. There's just that outline die and the background. Or we could go with, let's put these down flat. So this one, it's just a nice color palette. Those pinks, that lovely soft mint green, and the cream, and of course we've got a shaky elements. Now this one, you'll notice I cut an aperture with one of my square dies, and that's on the inside. Then again, we got Poppy again, slightly different picture, quite cheeky there. Again, just using our Sizzix cardstock. That's just using that set. Then for the smaller one, and this is a set I particularly love, we've got, and this bit has come off. How did that happen? Right, so there you go. Again, we've got a shaky bits in there. We've got a stamped sentiment on the inside. That stamp comes with this set, of course, and all those lovely florals. Now, this is really reining it back, folks. This is quite monochromatic, so we're just using ivory card and some little rose gold gems on there from the rose gold sequins and beads set. Then another one, again, splashes of color, quite spring-like. This one, again, all Sizzix card and sequins and beads. Let's take a look at the large one. Keeping it simple. It's very plain, 3 colors, boom, fantastic color combination there. Again, we got all our shaky bits. This is with a large square, incidentally. How about this? What we've done, we've die cut it, then we've embossed it with one of our multi-level folders, which is a chapter 2 folder, and we've used distress ink just to bring the color to the fore. And then finally, just strips of torn card, all put together, then die cut with the die from the set. Now, I did mention at the outset that, you know what, these don't have to be about those sets of dies. Shaker panes can be used with any dies. I would advise that you get the squares, the Framelits squares, makes them more versatile. But how about this? This is Tim Holtz, Chapter 1, and it's a set called Bold Text. And there are 7 dies in the set, but this one, there you go. How about this? We've cut that as an aperture into the front of the card, and we popped our shaky stuff in there. That's how it looks. Then, if you want to go slightly, say something for dad or your brother, uncle, granddad. This one, actually, well, you'll probably see this in the overhead. It's got metal findings in there. There's cogs and all sorts of things. Very, very kind of Tim Holtzy, if there is such a word. But that's got a real shake to it. So there's something quite unique. Maybe use some old coins in there. Maybe some little seashells. You can put a lock of hair in this, some pressed flowers, whatever it might be. It's a wonderful way of keeping memories and sending special thoughts to a loved one. Shaker panes, I mean, they are the gift that keeps on giving. These are the squares. We also have circles and we also have hearts. So check out, as I said, go to that link, check out all the other videos which will explain this in more depth. I hope you've enjoyed today's make. It's a lot of fun. They're just one of those jolly things. They bring a smile to your face, shaker panes. They're a wonderful, wonderful new addition to our line, and we use them an awful lot, and we shall continue to do so for the foreseeable future, I suppose. But thanks for joining me. I've been Pete, and I'll see you again soon.